The courtroom cameras were already rolling when Victoria Ashford walked in like she owned the building. At 42 years old, the Beverly Hills real estate millionaire carried herself with the confidence of someone who had spent her entire life protected by money. Everything about her appearance demanded attention. Her designer cream-colored Chanel suit looked flawless beneath the studio lights. Diamond earrings sparkled every time she turned her head, and the luxury handbag resting beside her probably cost more than most people earned in a year. Victoria didn't look nervous. She looked entertained. To her, this wasn't a serious court case. It was a chance to humiliate the woman sitting across from her one final time. That woman was Maria Santos, a 58-year-old immigrant housekeeper who had spent more than 2 decades cleaning mansions across Beverly Hills. Maria's hands were rough from years of hard work, but her reputation had always been spotless. Families trusted her completely. She had built a life through sacrifice, raising 3 children while working exhausting hours so they could have opportunities she never did. But now she sat trembling in Judge Judy's courtroom, accused of stealing a $15,000 Cartier bracelet from her wealthy employer. And Victoria Ashford looked absolutely certain she was going to win. The case started simply enough. Victoria claimed Maria had stolen the bracelet during her final week of employment. She demanded compensation for the missing jewelry and insisted Maria had also failed to properly perform her duties before quitting. But Judge Judy noticed something immediately. Victoria wasn't answering questions like someone seeking justice. She was answering like someone trying to control the room. Every response dripped with arrogance. Every sentence carried contempt, especially when she spoke about Maria. "She was lucky to even work for me," Victoria said coldly. "People like her don't get opportunities like that very often." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Maria lowered her eyes, but Judge Judy kept watching carefully. Then Maria quietly explained what had really happened. For 18 months, she had worked inside Victoria's massive Beverly Hills mansion. At first, everything seemed normal, but gradually, Victoria's behavior became cruel and humiliating. She constantly accused Maria of stealing small household items: candles, towels, decorations. Every time something went missing, Victoria blamed her immediately. Then days later, the items would suddenly reappear somewhere inside the house, but Victoria never apologized. Instead, the accusations became more aggressive over time, and worse, she often made them in front of guests. Maria described standing silently while wealthy women drank wine and discussed whether she should be reported to police. She explained how terrified she was of losing her reputation because in her profession, one accusation could destroy an entire career. Judge Judy listened without interrupting. Then Maria described the day everything changed. Victoria demanded that she clean the entire 12,000 square foot mansion for a dinner party with almost no notice. Maria had already worked exhausting hours that week and respectfully explained it couldn't realistically be completed in time. That's when Victoria snapped. "I pay you," she reportedly told her. "That means your time belongs to me." The courtroom went silent. Mary explained that after months of humiliation, she finally stood up for herself. Calmly and respectfully, she informed Victoria she would be resigning in 2 weeks. According to Maria, Victoria stared at her with fury and whispered, "You'll regret this." And that's exactly what happened. Maria testified that on her final day, Victoria handed her a check for $30,500 in unpaid wages. Relieved to finally escape the toxic environment, Maria deposited the money and tried to move on with her life. But 4 days later, police officers arrived at her apartment. Victoria had accused her of stealing the Cartier bracelet. The officers searched Maria's small apartment from top to bottom. They found nothing. Because there was nothing to find, Then Maria discovered something even worse. The $3,500 check had been canceled. Her bank account went negative overnight. Rent payments bounced. Bills failed. Her daughter's medical school tuition payment was rejected. And within days, Victoria began contacting domestic staffing agency across Los Angeles, warning families not to hire Maria because she was a thief. Maria lost almost all her clients. 23 years of honest work vanished in less than 2 weeks. By now, even the audience looked furious, but Victoria still seemed smug. Then came the moment that changed everything. Judge Judy asked a simple question. Mrs. Ashford, do you have any actual proof this woman stole your bracelet? Victoria crossed her arms confidently. I know how people like her operate. Judge Judy's expression hardened immediately. What exactly does that mean? Victoria rolled her eyes. It means people with money understand things you clearly don't, Judge. Maybe if you had real wealth, you'd understand. The entire courtroom froze. Even the bailiff looked stunned. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Judge Judy slowly folded her hands together and stared directly at Victoria for several long seconds. The look in her eyes was ice cold, but Victoria smiled like she thought she had scored a point. She had no idea what was coming, because Judge Judy had already done her homework. The night before the hearing, she had personally reviewed evidence connected to the case, and what she uncovered was devastating. Judge Judy turned toward the monitor beside the bench. Let's watch your security footage, she said calmly. For the first time all morning, Victoria's confidence cracked. Video footage from Victoria's own home surveillance system appeared on screen. The courtroom watched carefully as the recording showed Victoria entering her bedroom carrying the Cartier bracelet. Then the footage showed her placing it inside a locked drawer. Hours later, Maria cleaned an entirely different area of the house. The bracelet never moved, it never left the bedroom, and Maria never touched it. The audience gasped. Victoria's face went pale. Judge Judy didn't stop there. She revealed statements from multiple former employees who described identical experiences. False accusations, intimidation, missing wages, and emotional abuse. One after another, the pattern became impossible to deny. Judge Judy leaned forward. You accused this woman of theft, she said sharply. You damaged her reputation, interfered with her employment, canceled her wages, and filed a false lawsuit knowing this bracelet was never stolen. Victoria tried interrupting, but Judge Judy cut her off instantly. No, you've talked enough. The courtroom erupted into applause before the bailiff called for order. Judge Judy then delivered the final blow. She dismissed Victoria's lawsuit completely and ruled in Maria's favor for the stolen wages and financial damages caused by the false accusations. Then she looked directly at Victoria and delivered the sentence nobody in that courtroom would ever forget. Money may buy you luxury, Mrs. Ashford, but it does not buy character, honesty, or immunity from consequences. Victoria sat speechless. The smug confidence was gone. The woman who walked into court believing she was untouchable now looked completely shattered. And Maria Santos, the housekeeper Victoria tried to destroy, quietly wiped tears from her eyes as years of fear, humiliation, and injustice finally came crashing down inside that courtroom. For the first time in a very long time, someone powerful had finally been forced to face the truth.